The first handgun I ever shot was chambered in .40 Smith & Wesson. It was a Smith & Wesson SD-40VE. This is a striker-fired pistol with a silver slide and black polymer frame. I loved and still love that gun to this day, and that is why I chose this caliber to inform you of. Also, I think that the story behind its creation is interesting to all people due to it involving a shooting that happened in Miami in 1986 and involved the FBI. I believe that it is important to understand where things came from and not just where they are today. During this speech, I'll go over the development, law enforcement adoption, and commercial adoption of this cartridge commonly referred to as the .40. On April 11, 1986, the Miami shootout took place and 2 FBI agents died and 5 were severely injured. This incident highlighted the need for a more potent cartridge than the 9mm. This was one of the most violent events in FBI history. This was caused to the long amount of time it took to kill the suspects. It took 6 shots to kill one suspect and 12 to kill the other. All of these shots were in critical areas, and the cartridge lacked the power to quickly and effectively put down the suspects. Furthermore, most agents use revolvers, which increased reload time, which is critical in a situation like this. After this, the FBI tried 10mm in the Smith & Wesson 1076. However, this was too powerful and no one could shoot it accurately, which caused a lot of issues. So after that, one of the special agent in charge of the FBI firearms training unit, he brought in his own gun 10mm, but it had less gunpowder in it, so it didn't have quite as much recoil. Because of that, it was more controllable, but it still had the same power and larger bullet of the 10mm. After that, they came up with the .40 by reducing the size of the case because it was no longer needed to be as big, and they changed to a small pistol primer, and that gave birth to the .40 Smith & Wesson. This enabled the FBI to carry small guns that packed a bigger punch. On January 17, 1990, the .40 officially debuted. The gun specifically made for the FBI was a semi-automatic pistol called the Smith & Wesson Model 4006. This same year, Glock developed the Glock 22 and 23, which were both chambered in .40. Due to production delays, the Glock pistols became the most popular to everybody. Bigger and heavier bullets increased the stopping power of the cartridge. And like the 10mm, it had a very similar shape, which made the adoption easy because there were already guns chambered in 10mm. This ease of transition led many law enforcement agencies to switch to the .40 due to the previously stated benefits. However, for the FBI, the SWAT and hostage teams continued to use the 10mm because they were able to use it accurately. In 1992, H&K came out with an MP5 that is a submachine gun that shoots fully automatic, and that was for law enforcement use as well. In 1997, the FBI officially switched to the Glock pistols because they were much lighter and easier to handle, and a fully loaded Glock weighed less than an empty 4006. The benefits provided by the .40 Smith & Wesson led to significant popularity among civilians. Typically, civilians like to copy the cartridges used by military and law enforcement, such as 5.56 and an AR-15 or 308 and stuff like that. In the mid-1990s, Smith & Wesson came out with the Sigma, which is a similar design to Glock, but they got sued, so they had to change it a little bit. Also, they came out with carbines for home defense, which are very popular. And today, most major brands now offer a .40. I hope that this speech provided a solid understanding of the history of this cartridge and how it sustained its popularity until today, and why I still choose to shoot it. The story behind the development has always been interesting to me, as it went beyond people sitting in a lab coming up with something new just because. Over the course of this speech, I provided a summary of the development, law enforcement adoption, and public adoption of the .40 Smith & Wesson.